Hello, Vinny. I'm Dossetter from CXO Connect. And today what I'd like to do is to share with you this initiative of certifying CIOs.
Barbara, it's so good to see you. Haven't seen you in person in a while, but it's nice to see you remote. How's Singapore?
Singapore is hot and steamy, as always, Vinny. So when are you going to join us again in Singapore?
Make the jet lag go away and I'll be there.
Okay, my friend. We started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and I'd like to go through quickly why we even did this. We were actually asked by somebody, can you certify CIOs? Well, I had a bit of think about it, talked to my colleagues in CXO Connect, and how can we compare one role against another? And every CIO's role is different. So we came up with something else, and we said that what we've got to have is some common knowledge amongst what a usual CIO does, and then we can assess against that. There's nothing out there. We looked across there. The universities had an occasional module in an MBA, and horrendously expensive. So we decided we'd do it ourselves. So what we did is we built it on these principles. Firstly, and the most critical thing that a CIO does is he or she is a decision maker. They make good decisions with limited information and often in stressful circumstances. And it's their ability to make decisions in those times is really the critical success factor. The roles are different from one to the other. And we wanted to move away from academia and to actually have every module built by a practitioner. So they are. So everybody that anybody sees in the course is a practitioner. We also recognise that the role was not siloed. It can't be taught as modules like it would be at a university, that everything links with everything else. So we all worked together, and there was about 14 of us working together to build these 16 modules, and also making sure that we referred to the other. So we helped the delegates, the attendees, to actually make those connections. We also recognise that almost nowhere are the softer skills, and they're called the softer skills, but they're not soft, they're hard. And they're important, that you need at that executive level. So we also taught the softer skills to prepare them for that executive role. The other thing that I think is unique about this, apart from the fact that the whole course is unique, is that we built it from the CIO's point of view. So when we get to, for instance, enterprise architecture, we're not going to teach the delegate to be an enterprise architect. We're going to share with the delegate what he or she as a CIO needs to do and expect from the enterprise architect, and so on all the way through. We also wanted all the delegates to be very forward-thinking, because they have now a unique role to drive their organisation forward. They've always had that role, but now the organisation recognises it and recognises their need. And the last thing, and the most also very important to us, nobody gets certified for showing up. You have to demonstrate that you've increased your knowledge through this course to the appropriate level to be certified. So that was the principles upon which we built this. So the first 8 modules starts with the role of the CIO, helping them identify what are the characteristics and the responsibilities of a usual CIO. Then we move into developing the IT strategy. What is unique about this? The person who delivers this is ex-forces. So he thinks of the strategy from a almost war zone approach, going back to basics. We then look at the technology organization, and again, how you may need to rethink the technology organization now for the way the business is. Then we move into some of the softer skills, like how do you build relationships? Unfortunately, many of our people who aspire to be CIOs are geeks and nerds. not good at building relationships. So how can we give them the ways to do it? Leadership and talent management. It is critical that a CIO manages the talent.
Your previous point, building relationships, is that because they're so technical or they're not good at politics? What would you say? Why are they not as good?
They're rubbish at politics. They don't have easy conversations quite often with people who are not technical, and they're not necessarily as business focused as they should be. So all of this is part of it. So it's building relationships across the organization and also outside the organization. Okay. Cybersecurity and technology, you would expect that to be there. Sustainability and ESG, you would expect that to be there now. And the communication for IT professionals, it's also part of the building relationships. How do you talk to people who are not IT people? Yeah. How to communicate at executive level to get your proposal through. So those are the first 8 modules. And then we have the next 8. As I mentioned before, enterprise architect and innovation. And we don't take innovation as a separate module. It is butted into the right places all the way through. How does the enterprise architect also look after innovation in there? Program and project management. This was interesting. When we started talking about this, somebody said, why do we need to teach program and project management? And I said, until we as a profession can get projects in on time, within budget, and to our client satisfaction, it stays, because that is one of the 2 failure points that we are judged in as CIOs and IT leaders. Can we keep the lights on? Can we get the projects in on time? There's only 2. Everything else, our business colleagues consider a nice to have.
Do they push? Still push back on this because they say, I got so many project managers. This is not very helpful. Do they push back?
No, they don't. Once I explain the rationale of being in there, and if somebody needs to get into that depth, I will then start talking to them about how good their project managers really are. And good project managers are almost like purple unicorns. They're very difficult to find.
Isn't that shocking, Barbara, given how much money people spend on project management tools and God knows what Microsoft project nested cells they have?
The problem is that we have all the tools. What we don't have is the nous. Yeah, speaking truth to power, which is another masterclass we run. Yeah, how the project manager can use his or her position to speak truth to power. And then again, that becomes part of the communication in there as well. Being able to alert your business colleagues, and particularly your executive sponsor, when this project is going off the rails. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen this, when we examine some of the massive public failures, yeah, you and I as experienced people can look back and see the roots of the failure were way back here. So, managing the internal client, very important. Again, it takes you from that building the relationship, but how do you manage that relationship? Yeah, as an internal client. Infrastructure management, very important now, becoming increasingly important as the world is getting more complex. And yeah, our module leader in that area talks about the software defined network, the next phase and what it's going to mean.
Do you cover the trend of infrastructure shrinking because it's moving to the cloud?
Yes. Oh yeah, very much so. But although the infrastructure has shrunk, the responsibility hasn't.
Yes, of course.
Might vote to choke if I'm the CIO. Analytics and business intelligence, never been more important, because if you're going to use AI, you better use it on data that is actually reasonably accurate. So that whole area is in constant movement in there. outsourcing and smart sourcing, and this is again going through a
Power
massive.
to the data and analytics. One trend I've noticed is companies are realizing they have unique operational data.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity to monetize it. So that's a skill set that is very new. People don't know
Yes.
how much, I call, we talk about data being the new oil. They don't realize how much oil they have that it can actually be monetized.
Exactly. And how do they bring in external data to give it even more valuable? You see people like Tesco, the supermarket chain in the UK, who has been doing this for 20 years and making a fortune out of it with their suppliers. But even with those examples, it's so rare to see it being used in most organizations. And part of that, I'm sure, Vinny, you may agree, is because cleaning up your data is expensive and boring, and you've got to clean up your data.
Yeah. And you got to, the data that you monetize has to apply to a broad spectrum of customers, not just in your industry. You got to sell a data stream that can be anonymized, that can be easily ingested by language models and so on. So it's not just a simple get the data and it's done. So
No. And it's also, quite frankly, Vinny, it's not an IT-led job either.
well, the funny thing is, not even I'm seeing procurement people who are good at negotiating with vendors as procurement. I've asked a couple of them, you're going to be a salesperson soon, and they look at you like, huh?
I know. It is such an exciting time to be in IT at the moment. There's so many things that we can do, and organizations are far more open than they've ever been.
The funny thing is vendors aren't prepared for a world where they have to buy stuff from their customers, and that is a big shock to them too. So
excellent. So module 14, outsourcing and smart sourcing. And again, the next iteration of this is how do we actually manage the cloud, the smart sourcing in the cloud, the contracts and all of that. So really that's an area that is itself is changing. And to your point, when you're talking about outsourcing and smart sourcing and procurement, which is part of that, is what can you sell back to the vendor? What can you give back to the vendor to reduce your price and cost? Probably amongst the IT profession, the least understood and loved is managing the IT finance. And we work with
IT. It's I've seen some organizations call it IT operations. So
yeah. So we have that module in there with guidance and explanations and things like that. And then we come to module 16, and module 16 is the only one I give. The reason why we've set it up this way is that I think I've got about 12 or 13 other people who give these modules. So all the way through, all the delegates are hearing different voices, different experiences, because everybody brings their experience into the virtual room as well, and helps to reinforce that there is no one best practice, there is no one right way. You as the CIO, as the IT leader, needs to figure out for yourself which one works. We bring it all together in module 16, which is called the CIO's first 100 days. And the scenario is that the IT leader who has been on this course is going to get promoted into the CIO role in their own organization, or they're going to jump to a new organization. So it goes through what they should do in their last 30 days or so in their current position, partly to secure their reputation amongst everything else, partly to make sure that the handover is done professionally. If they're taking a break, what should they do in that break? How should they plan for the next 100 days, and how they move into their new organization with a plan in place, who they should talk to, how they present that plan, how they position themselves. Because, Vinny, as you and I know, that if you don't get your reputation solidified in that first 100 days as a new CIO in a new company, you're probably going to be looking for another job within 2 years, if you last that long. So we also base the certification on this. So at the end of this, there is a case study, which each of the delegates gets to choose one of 4 options. They prepare the case study response, and they're given about 3 weeks to do that. That is then sent to me as course leader. I look at it. If I think it's suitable, I then pass it on to the assessment board. Each candidate has 3 assessors on their individual assessment board. Those people on the assessment board are either CIOs themselves or heads of IT somewhere. They may or may not have been involved in this, so there's a potential to hear another 3 voices, another 3 senior leaders who can share. And then those assessors ask questions, because again, if you remember to what I was saying in the beginning, it is how well do you make decisions with limited knowledge? And that's what they're looking for. How good a decision maker is this person? There is a lot of room to maneuver in the case study. Again, it's not a tick box, and they can turn out different answers for what looks like the same question. And then the assessors ask them why they did that, why they said that, and then start assessing it. The assessors are also looking for things they didn't put in there, because not everything is in there. So it's usually quite interesting. The assessors then write back to me with their assessment, both on the case study response and on the candidate themselves, the delegate themselves, and also any development areas they feel that the delegate needs to continue there. I then take that, and based on that, we will certify or not. I then have a meeting with each individual delegate, and I go through with that delegate, the response from the assessors, and discuss it through, because again, this is continuing the learning, absolutely continuing the learning. And then the recommendations for them to continue to build, their experience towards them. Where the delegates have been sponsored by their companies, I then arrange a meeting with their executive sponsor, who I've already met twice through the 16 modules, to assess progress and share progress from my point of view. And I give them the feedback on the development opportunities. There's no point in giving them feedback on the case study, because unless they've read the case study, the delegate's response, and then that, it doesn't mean anything. But then we talk through generally what they need to do to take their person forward there. So all the way through, it is a very, very engaged, personal, constant feedback from probably up to about 15 senior people. What do you think?
I like it. Tell me the results. What the first few delegates, how many delegates have you had, and what's been
Okay, we've gone through two courses. We're now recruiting for the third. The first one was a proof of concept. We passed both of those. The second one was, as we've built up, we started with 8 delegates. 1 had to drop out for personal reasons. 1 I would not put forward for certification because he had not completed the work. And I gave him warnings all the way through that could well be the case. But you don't get a badge for showing up. Yeah.
You're a tough one.
it's, Vinny, it's got to mean
Just,
something.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's got to mean something.
Yes, yes,
We in the early days, we talked to various business schools, senior business schools about this. And although they thought it was great and all interested, but they wanted to make it more academic,
Yeah.
they didn't want to do it for another year. We were already doing proof of concept. Yeah, we're IT people. We're used to doing proof of concept, move into production. And then when we sat back and thought about it, I thought, with 25 years of advising CIOs as an organization, and probably some of us longer than that as professionals, we're probably the best placed people to do this.
I would agree. How do people find you? How are you getting the word out?
We're on LinkedIn, and we're constantly promoting on LinkedIn, and that's probably going to be our plan. We're also at the stage now, because we're confident in what we're doing, and that starting to talk to various country groups, so computer societies in countries, and talk about whether we can put this in as a partner program for them. Because again, none of them do that, do anything like this. And, because we started this at the beginning of COVID, when most IT professionals, if you weren't trying to get everybody working from home and new laptops out of China and all of that, you weren't working very hard. So I got the attention of the advisory service directors in the group, and we all got very enthusiastic. I mean, this is as much a passion play for all of us. Yeah, it's our adding back to our profession.
Well, Barbara, thank you for presenting this. Any other final thoughts?
Just go through here. Important point, certification is not automatic.
Yeah.
Okay. And everything else is what I've told you there. Feedback, which we did in the second cohort, much stronger than we had done in the first cohort, seems to be a very unique feature. You don't get feedback on a university course or an MBA unless you ask for it. It is an important, critical piece of this. These folks, this is a major step in their career, these delegates. We want them to be the best CIOs, IT leaders that they can possibly be. Because quite frankly, we don't have enough across the globe, and anybody we have was born 40 plus years ago. So we only have that material to work with. So we need to do that. So on completion of the program, they've got the knowledge of the roles, responsibilities, and decision rights that a CIO should have. They've got the knowledge of the skills and behaviors that you need to be effective. You need to know the right questions to ask and to be able to assess the answers. Doesn't mean you need to be a technical expert, but you need to be really good at detecting wrong information. We give them actionable skills such as selling to the board, developing a strategy, defining the target operating model, promoting innovation, those practical things. We also help them to learn how to manage through levels of responsibility, which many of them don't have. And at the end of this, assuming that they're certified, they're invited to join the alumni group. Small at the moment, but my ambition is it grows into hundreds of people who have been through the same experience. Every module leader is on there. Every delegate who's certified is on there. Yep. So you have an organization where you have shared some of the experience, and you should be able to trust the people in that alumni group.
Well, in a few years, that group should be a huge networking. You keep doing it, and you'll get the multiplier effect pretty quick.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, just introduce my team of amazing module leaders, and I'll leave you with this picture. These are the people who've helped develop this, and they lead the modules.
Good-looking people.
They're great. They're great. They're great. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Any other questions, Vinny?
No, that's, yeah, lot to digest, but I'm glad you're doing this. It is
Me
unique, like you say, it's unique.
Yeah. I couldn't find anything else anywhere in the world that was even close. And bits and pieces here and there, but this is concentrating on that role, whether you call it CTO, CIO, whatever, concentrating on that role and getting that person particularly ready. At least two of the people on here, when they were developing their particular module, had admitted to me as course director, said, I wish I'd had this when I started, because they look back at all the mistakes they made.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a, it requires a lot of different skills. Technology is moving so quickly and business is moving so quickly, right? When we talked a couple of weeks ago, I was telling you about all the vertical edge applications that have become viable, all the globalization, new emerging markets.
Yep.
AI and the data, area is just exploding. So it's a tough to, and then you can't forget security, right? More CIOs get fired
Yeah,
for
exactly.
breaches than anything else. So it's a moving target, constantly moving target. So thank
Our
you.
plan
for
is
doing
to
this for me.
update these modules, probably review them every year. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, my friend.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.